Movie studios often remake great films that are difficult to improve upon, but what if they did the opposite? What bad film could be made into a great film if it were to be remade? The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Fantastic comic series with almost unlimited potential. And they made an abysmal film out of it. It was bad enough that even though the film made money, they knew a sequel wouldn't. Sadly, it was basically Sean Connery's last film role. And that's a shitty one for him to go out on. I still have a dream that he plays the villain in a Bond film. But I think that ship long sailed due to age and lack of interest on his part. The Golden Compass. Duck that it. The BBC are doing a series and I can't wait. The Aragorn movie was atrocious compared to the books. The Dark Tower. Epic 7K page Stephen King masterpiece that was filed down to a 1.5 hours piece of actual garbage. Just rewatched The Langoliers last night. For a terrible TV movie, it has so much potential. Edit. Since so many people have asked how I found it, here it is on YouTube, at least in America. I would like to see someone take a crack at the Percy Jackson stories. The movies they made were awful. Just awful. Suicide Squad. Give it an R rating. Replace the villain with something more appropriate. The whole point of the Suicide Squad is to give plausible deniability when it comes to Black Ops. Cut the stupid side characters. Hancock could have been so much better than it was. Cirque du Freak. Anybody that was a fan of the books will tell you how upsetting that movie was. Guess that applies for a ton of book adaptations though. Full stop. I would watch the it out of a Super Mario Bros. Remake with Danny DeVito as Mario. Green Lantern 100%. A character with that power set, passionate director and enthusiastic writer can birth a good DC film. Man on Fire with Denzel Washington is a remake of a terrible Scott Glenn 1987 version. Same plot just with Tony Scott's amazing style and great performances from Denzel and Fanning. Disney's The Black Cauldron. Even if you don't think it was a dab film, a remake would definitely help make the original or at very least the story more known. Tron. It was good enough to me and Daft Punk fans, but it wasn't so popular. Perhaps it wasn't the right timing when released. The Last Airbender. Make each book a trilogy. Alien vs Predator. Follow the comic storylines. Have a decent budget. And stick to the mythos of the original films and you'll have a great versus film. Passengers with the movie starting from Jennifer Lawrence's character's perspective and Chris Pratt being the bad guy, like everyone suggested. Almost any Stephen King movie from the 80s and 90s. The dude has so many great books that could be top tier horror films, or drama like Green Mile and Shawshank, but people just keep ducking up the adaptations. Suicide Squad. I think the animated film Assault on Arkham did a much better job of telling a good Suicide Squad story, and I'd love to see that on the big screen live action. Fortunately, we're actually getting a Suicide Squad soft reboot remake. I'm confident Gunn can put out a much better movie. Dungeons and Dragons. The movie. They just need to actually work with some of the already hugely detailed world settings that currently exist. Pick a setting. Forgotten Realms would be cool. There's a ton of history and characters. They'd just have to actually use some. With modern special effects, it could be really great. If Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets had a better director and better leading roles, it could have been amazing. The story itself wasn't even bad. It was just ducked up by bad execution. Also, don't cast Rihanna. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is surely begging for the high quality CGI treatment. Maybe not a remake per se, but a new Heavy Metal would be pretty sweet. Just another collection of adult animation that borderlines porn with an awesome metal soundtrack. Couple come to mind. Jupiter Ascending was a shitty movie that had a great movie hiding inside it. The art direction of that movie was ducking phenomenal and there were parts of the film that really worked. The problem is that the script was ducking infuriating. I feel like you needed another editor to look it over or something to fix up some of the messiness with it. I also think people don't understand camp and just assume anything campy is bad. And I think that worked to this movie's detriment. But that's another combo. It wasn't a good movie still. Lady in the Water. I confess, I actually like this movie. It came out when I was like 15, so that might have something to do with it. Okay, yes. It's really stupid that M. Night wrote a movie where he played a dude who was going to change the world with his writing, and had a itty movie critic character get killed as a gotcha to critics. But the setting was really oddly intriguing, a fairy tale set in a shoddy Philadelphia apartment complex. And the meta elements of trying to figure out how the story is supposed to go using tropes is kind of cute. Also the skrinks or whatever they were called were cool. I actually think this movie isn't all that bad. And I think it's another example of give that script another pass. M. Night in general, like, we know he's capable of good movies. Unbreakable still holds up as a really excellent superhero film and a deconstruction of superhero films a full 2 years before Raimi's Spider-Man came out. I feel like the guy is someone who did a really great job early in his career and then let the praise go to his head and became convinced he could do no wrong. The Room, 2003. Same script, same cast, depending on Tommy's wishes, and still directed by Wiseau. The only difference is that he's given hundreds of millions of dollars and unlimited access to any technology, resources, and or whatever else Tommy may want to carry out his vision. Edit. I did not expect this level of karma attention from this comment. I got a freaking award. It's so wild. Also, I have seen many people mention Tommy Wiseau's mysterious gained approx. $6 million budget, which I will admit is a large sum of money. What I'm pitching is more. I'm talking about real blockbuster budget here, somewhere in the $100-150 million range. Also the studio must comply with each and every choice that he makes. If he wants a dozen floating spoons in every shot, no question will be made about it. It will just happen. That is all. As the wise man once said, if a lot of people love each other, the world would be a better place to live. I wish they remade John Carter. Probably some better care in costume and casting this time. That movie was good. I'm convinced Reign of Fire could be a great movie, instead of the aggressively average movie it was. Biodome would make for an amazing horror movie. Don't even change the actors. Just have it from the perspective of everyone else trying to escape while Pauly Shore stalks them. Tremors. The original was amazing. The sequels started to get strange with the evolution of the graboids. I'd like to see a Netflix original series about the graboids in a horror style series. Super Mario Bros. Movie. Why did it flop? World War Z. The book was basically a perfect movie script, requiring only that they not try to turn it into a star vehicle for some single major character. It is the vignette-based story of the struggle of all humanity. What they made was utter trash, and nothing to do with the book. They tried to focus on a single person, wrong, and have a hero, wrong, and ignored the entire point of the book. The only similarly at all was the name. Gosh, Ender's Game. What a train wreck. Has no one mentioned Dune yet? Okay, hear me out. My favorite sci-fi book of all time, and I've read a lot, is The Postman. Yes, Kevin Costner made a movie with the same title, but that movie was just awful. The DVD doesn't even have previews or a menu. You just put it in and it starts playing. They didn't even care. It's a story about a guy who's trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic world, and how his lies about being a postman give hope and change to all the little settlements that he tries to scam. There are cyborgs, supercomputer AIs, blimps, lasers, cabals of scientists, metahumans, and all sorts of it like that. The KC movie has a guy with a tattoo and Tom Petty. If I had the money, I'd buy the rights and pitch it as a series to Netflix. I always say this. Do we repaint the Mona Lisa? Do us all a favor and remake a RedditJar movie. The Hobbit Parts 1, 2 and 3. The Dark is Rising. They took everything charming from the amazing books, threw it away and added stupid and cliche registered sign D tropes. I would love to see a high quality production. Honestly, this ducking movie doesn't deserve to exist. It's even worse than The Last Airbender. Not a movie, but Game of Thrones Season 8 can't possibly be remade worse. The Purge. There is a lot of room for it to be an intriguing plot if the main plot point wasn't just an excuse to create a chaotic horror hellscape. The Hobbit. Just make it one film and don't deviate from the book or invent characters just to set up a romantic secondary plot and it would be brilliant. Edit. Also forgot to specify. Only have an incredibly sparing use of CGI. LOTO looked far better because it was real and only used CGI when there really was no alternative. For example, the Balrog. The Polar Express. Not a bad movie, but it's kinda hard to look at now with how poorly the visuals aged, especially on characters and people. I think cartoonish CG ages far better and would prefer that on another go around. Also, can Eddie Deason not do his Mandark voice? I spent the whole movie going, that's just Mandark, duck off. Dune. They're about to do it. With an incredible cast directed by Denis Villeneuve. The original was okay. A David Lynch cult classic that spawned an amazing PS1 game. But the new one? It could be the greatest remake of all time. Jumper. Such an awesome premise. Teleporting. But the lead actor was horrible, as was the plot. FWIW. HBO's Westworld is inspired by a pretty good 1973 movie starring Yul Brynner, Richard Benjamin and Josh Brolin. More DC movies need to be mentioned other than Suicide Squad, Batman v Superman, every Superman movie, Justice League, Green Lantern, Watchmen, Batman Returns Forever and Robin, Catwoman. Percy Jackson. It still has so much potential. Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Disney needs to quit remaking movies that are already amazing on their own. Atlantis would be an amazing, big scale action flick with some amazing lore. Treasure Planet is also a solid choice. The Warcraft movie. I enjoyed the visual effects and the movie had its moments. But had I not been a Warcraft fan, I would have had no ducking clue what was going on. I had to fill the blanks in with prior knowledge. I feel bad for the ones who didn't. It was so promising. Logan's Run. Read the book and watched the movie for the first time a few months ago and the movie was terrible. There was so much they couldn't achieve with the tech they had then. And now I think it would be a really fantastic movie. Waterworld, if done right, would be really cool. The Picture of Dorian Gray. The book was perfect, then you watch the movie, it was horrible. Lol, 19-year-old me was so annoyed for an entire month afterwards. The Neverending Story with the breadth of special effects wizardry we have today would be amazing. The Star Wars prequels have a lot of potential. The Mist. It actually wasn't a bad adaptation. The story by itself is great, but the special effects haven't aged well. If it would be made a Lee A24 style, I'm sure it would be pretty successful and the story would get more recognition. The Dark Phoenix. I just watched it, and it had some great ideas, but the cinematography was not good, and the scenes could have been cleaner. It was pretty bland. Until the last part of the movie. I can tell Hans Zimmer did an absolutely fabulous job with what he was given. They should just keep the score and read the whole movie. Venom. R-rated. That is all. The Last Airbender. Could be fantastic if it were made by someone who cared about the show. Mortal Kombat. Annihilation. Star Trek V. At the time it was just an ego boost for Shatner and trying to be better than God, but I feel if they took a page from DS9 then you could get a really interesting movie on regards to the philosophical debate surrounding religion and its place in the world of Star Trek. The Hobbit was terrible. It is nowhere near the quality of The Lord of the Rings. Stephen King's Christine. The book was fairly decent, and there's a lot on the table when it comes to an immortal, murderous automobile. Modern CGI, while lamer than the practical effects used in the original movie, create endless opportunities when it comes to Christine's regeneration. It could be quite the horror movie, making people wary of those headlights on the highway. These days with autonomous cars, it could even have an added aspect that wasn't even thought of in the 80s. Red sedan pulls up without a driver. There's a Uber sticker. Kid that previously vandalized the car gets in, none the wiser, then rolls out of the car at the end of the drive, dead. Lassabluster low-budget sci-fi schlock that tried to cash in on the Star Wars hype in 1978. It has a main character that randomly kills people and weird-looking stop-motion turtle aliens, but I swear to God, somewhere in there is the groundwork for a good movie. I just know it. The Belko Experiment. It's not a bad movie or anything, but it's just average while the premise is amazing. Remake it but get rid of the guns and have people kill each other with office supplies. Aragorn. Star Wars Episode 7 and 8. Super Mario Bros. Deserves a remake. The Dark Tower as a series, please. The reason they remake good movies is because it's a, generally, easier sell to Hollywood. For example, hey, people really liked this movie, we can bring it back and make millions. Versus, hey, this was a horrible movie, we think we can do better. What about re-editing films that flopped? Have driven producers around and have heard on 2 occasions that the blame for a particular failure was the final edit. MR. Nanny remake starring John Cena. Make it a gritty action flick where a merc is hired to watch the president's kids who have been kidnapped by Somali pirates. So it is simultaneously an action movie and a modern pirate flick. The Michael Bay produced Ninja Turtles films and cast Anna Kendrick as April O'Neil. The Cat in the Hat. The original movie was so bad that Dr. Seuss's estate was like, okay, no more live action Dr. Seuss adaptations. You ruined it for everyone, great job jackass. With modern special effects and graphics and the popularity of comic book movies, I think Flash Gordon deserves a remake. While I love the cheesy 80s take on it, it would be pretty awesome to make a modern adaptation. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I'd love them to give Dark Shadows to someone other than Tim Burton. The old series was cool and the movie could have been classic horror akin to Crimson Peak if Burton and Depp hadn't gotten their hands all over it. The Dragonlance cartoon, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, has the potential to be good under proper direction. Cowboys and Aliens. Okay, it wasn't OMG, the worst thing ever, and yeah, I'm sure some people loved it, but the movie was just, you know, fine. I couldn't tell you the names of the characters or the aliens, or even the story, because they were all kind of forgettable. I can tell you who was in it, but what happened and why, nope. The Mists of Avalon. Great book, itty movie, would love to see it well done. I Am Legend. Simply get rid of the itty CGI. Congo. Michael Crichton's novel is one of my favorite books and they mercilessly butchered it on screen. Given a proper cast and solid following of source material, it could be amazing. They're remaking Suicide Squad already, and James Gunn is behind it. Even if it's just a passable film, it will have been vastly better than what existed before. The Highlander franchise. To be fair, the original movie is pretty solid, but the subsequent films really go off the rails. I'd say reboot it with a clear vision in mind and build towards the end rather than making it up as you go. It's primed for an Assassin's Creed-esque grand story, the video games, not the film. Lord of the Flies. The only movie is from 1961. It needs a remake.